All right, let's dive into it. Hello, everyone. My name is Alexandre. I'm French, living in Bali. I facilitate breathwork facilitator trainings and transformational journeys. I'm very, very honored and excited to talk to you today. I will share about the model IFS. I will not go too much into detail, and I have already sent you links, and I'll invite you to go into, if you're interested in exploring IFS, to go more in detail. I'm way more interested in describing how IFS, breathwork, circling, mix together and the things that are happening in our trainings. So that will be my focus today. If you are interested in going further, I offer facilitator training. That's one of my intentions doing this webinars is to promote myself. So I do workshops, I have online courses, and I do teacher trainings in India starting in May, and I'll be in August in Bali. So that's for the marketing. All right, so let's start with the explanation of the model called IFS, Internal Family System. Um, the idea behind IFS is that within our mind are different aspects, and those aspects somehow take over. Sometimes, like there is a part of me that is quite happy to be here, and there is a part of me that wish to actually watch Netflix right now. And there is another part that would love to actually be with my son because I don't get to spend enough time with him. So we have different aspects, and basically those aspects are like different people. And those people live within each of us. And very much those parts of us, they act like, and they come out in the form of habits and different habits that we take. There is a part of me that really likes to take care of himself. He goes to the gym, he eats very well. And there is another part that actually loves to binge on half a liter of ice cream. And these parts are sometimes judging each other, and they have different relationship with each other. So the fundamental idea behind IFS is the concept of parts, that we're not just one person, we're different aspects, and they form our personality. Now, the concept of personality is quite interesting because it's we are who we are. Some people, because they don't like the concept of taking radical responsibility, they say a lot of things are genetic. But I personally believe that a big part of our personality is an adaptation to what happened to us. So we go through beautiful experiences in life, and we go through also harder experiences. Sometimes we experience something and we wish we had not experienced it. We wish we had not been through this tough moment where both our parents were screaming and we're 4-year-old in the middle of that. And we just don't want to experience that ever again. We just anchor that moment and we feel, well, this part, I don't want to feel it anymore. And those parts, we push them down, we repress, we suppress them, and we don't want them to come out to the surface. In the IFS framework, they will be called exiles. And how do we deal with these parts that we don't want us to completely feel? We have basically two ways. We bring different kinds of managers, of ways to handle. Some will be proactive parts, some will be reactive parts. So, for instance, the proactive will be try to create some nice routines, the one that I described, going to the gym and having a morning routine and practicing yoga every day. And those parts are making sure that I take care of myself and my nervous system. And then sometimes I go through a situation that triggers me, my nervous system gets aroused, and those those managers are useless in that moment. So other parts come to the surface, and those will be reactive parts. Those would be the triggered parts. And they will come and they will do whatever it takes to numb the pain, to numb the sensation. That's the part that will want you to grab a glass of wine, that will go for chocolate, that will go and watch Netflix, that will basically just have a big opinion about yourself. So in a nutshell, we have different parts that have different feelings, different emotions. And the ones that are a little bit on the pain part, the shame, the guilt, The fear, which is the main one, those are the ones we really don't want to feel. Yeah, those would be the exiles. And then we have managers and firefighters, proactive and reactive parts that come to the rescue whenever there is a potential of a trigger of those wounded parts. Okay, so I really invite you to go deep into the work of IFS because it provides a really fantastic framework when it comes to working with ourselves. There is a word that I don't like, is the word healing. The word healing implies that somehow there is something wrong that needs to be fixed. There is something that I need to better about myself. In the IFS framework, there would be more about integrating. Can I change my relationship with some of my parts? So let's say I go and I want to smoke a cigarette, that I can observe now with IFS framework in mind and knowledge about it, that, oh, there is a part of me that wants to grab a cigarette. And I just want to say here that we need to observe whether it's the idea of smoking a cigarette comes from a desire and a pleasure. I love smoking cigarette and that's completely fine and there's no judgment. Or is it something that I do out of a reaction because I don't want to feel the pain? So all of a sudden, the cigarette has a role. The cigarette is there because if I smoke a cigarette, I feel better. And instead of judging the behavior, aka glass of wine, smoking, shopping, Netflixing, whatever we are doing, going to the gym, instead of judging those parts, we get to appreciate them with curiosity, with compassion, with connectiveness, and see what roles they play in our life. What need has not been met and is being met by the support of those managers. So that's a little bit of the framework. Now, I bring almost by accident a very unusual approach to integration of IFS and breathwork. So I want to describe a little bit what's happening in our trainings. In our trainings, we create extremely safe containers. And we do that because the containers are 3 weeks and we create some guidelines. For instance, no one is allowed to give advice. No one is allowed to share their opinion, their knowledge. They're only allowed to speak from the heart. There is always some rules like one speaker at a time. No one is allowed to bring the energy down of the group. So basically, some guidelines create an environment where everybody feels that all parts of them are welcome. And that's really important in the context of integrating IFS with breathwork. In an environment that is safe, and again, safety is something that is really designed by the way we interact. Another element that creates a lot of safety is the level and the values and the way we interact with each other. The key values are authenticity, vulnerability, generosity, humility. So when we come with this kind of guidelines, it creates a space where people feel they can just welcome all their parts. Something quite fundamental to add to that is everyone has 2 major needs that need to be fulfilled. There is a need for belonging and there is a need for authenticity. Most people suppress their authenticity out of primal need to belong. When we're born, we're not finished. And if we don't get fed by our mother, we're going to die. So as soon as we start to express our authenticity, if it's not met with mindfulness by the prime caretakers, we're going to choose to suppress that. For instance, I don't want to eat the food of my mother. My mother says, okay, finish your food. You cannot get out of the table until you finish your food. Oh my God, my mother doesn't love me. Okay, I will suppress that I don't like this food in order to be accepted by my mother. So we go on in life understanding that our need for belonging is higher than our need for authenticity. And what we do as a result is suppress our authentic self. In IFS words, it means I suppress parts of me that I feel will not be welcome. The part that disagrees with the facilitator, for instance, that's a classic one in my training. when people say, Alex, I disagree with you. Alex, I don't like what happened. And they feel quite triggered by that because it's quite challenging to express their authentic self because they also want to be at the same vibration as everyone else. And here they experience something really wonderful, that the more people are authentic, the more it creates belonging. It's completely the opposite. The more we express our authentic self, the more people are attracted to us. That's a secret of Donald Trump. You know, that's a secret of a lot of successful people. We don't really care about that. They say we're attracted to that vibration because it resonates with a primal need in each of us to just express our authentic self. And we don't need to agree with them. We don't need to like them. We just are attracted by a vibration that we so crave to have ourselves, where we just express our authentic self. Now, this is not small deal because and that's where we come in with something quite original. In my understanding, IFS model, but also all therapy model, it relates to the relation between a trained therapist and a client, patient, whatever you want to call it. And every week they do 1 or 2 hours of session working on their parts. But I find the limitation for myself. I've done 1 year of IFS therapy as a patient or client, and I was frustrated because I want to bring all my parts when they are there. It's hard for me to hold back. And I was feeling myself quite limited with the work. But when I'm in a container, even as a facilitator for 3 weeks, and I can relax and bring my parts, knowing that all of me is welcome in the container, it creates a vibration where we don't rely anymore on a trained facilitator to hold the space. I don't like that expression of like, as if the space needs to be held by anyone. But instead of that, just expressing myself, and that's where I think is the most interesting, gives permission to other wounded, exiled parts in other participants to come to the game. And that's the impact part in shares. Whenever someone shares, I say, hey, does that relate to you? Does that impact you? How do you want to share your impact? And what we see is that exiles all of a sudden feel safe to blend and to come to the surface and to express themselves naturally. It's not like I guide them through a process of expression of their parts with curiosity. No, it's just the dynamic of the circle that is and again, the strong guideline that helps people feel safe to bring it up. And at the end, what it creates is an incredible vibration where people do the work and they feel the support of a tribe. They feel the support of a community. And it's extremely healing. Of course, it takes years, and I'm very conscious of the limitation also on the need of integration after the training and the support system. And I tell you right there, I really encourage graduates to go on with IFS therapists, but also I encourage them to build tribes and communities in their areas so they can continue the work in community. You know, for me, psychotherapy is quite recent with, Freud. But if you look at indigenous cultures all over the world, they've always done the same. They sit in circle and they talk. If you look at blue zones and people who live more than 120 years old, the only one thing they have in common, it's community. They sit together, and if someone has a problem, they share it with everybody. And I think this is something that really needs to be brought back to the conversation, and we need to bring back this concept of circling in the context of integration of the parts. So that's a little bit of a overview of what we are working with in these trainings. Wow, it was super fast. One thing that I want to continue, but please feel free to ask questions. I see there's some chat there, but don't hesitate to ask questions. And if people have questions, I'll happily take them and explain more and go into the details. But what I realize is my trainings are facilitator trainings. So people come because they want to learn how to be breathwork facilitators. And in my approach, already after 4 days of training, I ask them to facilitate their first group session. After 3 days, they do their first one-on-one. After 4 days, they do their first group session. Why? Because I think that a lot of people have limited beliefs of not being good enough, not being worthy, just don't have the confidence, and just getting out there with their authentic self, but also with their protectors, because they are stressed. Protectors and managers come to the rescue, and all of a sudden we'll have someone who is very shy, someone who's very controlling. So basically, those managers are kind of coming to the rescue. And we get to know them, and we get to discover them in the facilitation. And with kindness, curiosity, compassion, acceptance, we get to welcome all those parts of everyone. And people feel, wow, I've never experienced this level of openness. And literally, the outcome of these experiences are pure self-love. And self-love and witnessing others in that vibration of self-love. So it's really no longer about taking care of each other. People are just taking care of themselves in community with others. And that's really important. No one is there to fix. No one is giving advice again, but no one is also bringing up anything that doesn't belong to the group. Okay, so that's a little bit about one thing that came up very interestingly in these trainings. Now, I haven't mentioned about the key element in what I do primarily, which is breathwork. Breathwork is incredible in the sense that so there I can be a little bit technical in basically what is called breathwork is traditionally, it would be holotropic or rebirthing. If I'm, okay, come back into the frame. And it's basically altering our state of consciousness through an alteration of the breath. So we breathe in a connected way. And when we start breathing in a connected way for a while, we have a change in chemistry in the body. We exhale a lot. And when we exhale, we get rid of a lot of CO2. And CO2 binds the oxygen to the hemoglobin. And when we exhale a lot, what happens is there is less CO2 available to bind the oxygen to the hemoglobin. So basically, the body parts get less oxygenated. That's why people have tingling sensation or claw hands, but also get lightheaded or dizzy. And all of a sudden, the front part of the brain, because the brain uses 25% of oxygen of the body, but the brain doesn't have enough oxygen. So it has to decide who gets the oxygen. And the front part of the brain, which is the useless part of the brain, the part that is thinking about your past, your future, but also your self-awareness part. This part you can live without. The central part, the limbic brain, the brain stems, the olfactory system, you need them to survive. But the front real estate, the prefrontal cortex, you can have 1 or 2 minutes without them. That's why people cry. They cry because they don't mind anymore expressing what's going on. Yeah. So this idea of going into full presence, not thinking about the future, not thinking about the past, combined with this connected breathing where the energy, this prana energy is now flowing in the body, going through points of tension and releasing tensions in the fascia system. One key component in our trainings is movement. And movement as a precursor and preparation for breath is essential because we store issues in our tissues, basically in our fascia system. So when people move and slide and relax into it prior to going into the breath, then all of a sudden it brings up some material. It brings up repressed emotions, emotion that we felt we didn't want to experience, exiles, that we felt, wow, I don't really want to go there. Was too painful. But all of a sudden, it comes up. So we really have the perfect storm with a safe container with strict guidelines, movement, breath. I do touch and I teach touch. So with touch to release tension in the fascia. And then a release. And then for me, I consider all that prep work. The real work is the integration, is the circle. And sometimes the circle can be half of the session. And where all of a sudden we connect in the heart, we bring up whatever was there, and we get to access those exiles, we get to access those managers. But instead of the facilitator ping pong with each participant, all I do is offer impact, offer resonance, offer alignment. And what happens is the wounded parts, because, of course, if you're here, you most likely know it already. We are one. When people touch an exile, when they go to their wounded parts, of course it resonates. And it's incredible. We all have all aspects in all of us. We are humans. We go through the same trauma of birth. That's a huge trauma. We all have unintegrated parts from our ancestors. And, we are having a toxic culture that we share, the patriarchy, and now the Me Too movement, and then the racism, and then the whatever it is that's going on. It's in all of us. So suicide, when we talk suicide, it's a huge impact. And when we talk about sexual abuse, it's a huge topic. And here is something really, 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 really cool that happens in these sessions. Because of level of safety that people experience, they also feel safe to bring their abusers. I found it that was quite easy for people to share what happened to them. But now we get to access and people get to share what they have done to others. And that's incredible. When you're in a space where no one will judge, I've had people share, I'm attracted to children. And I'm 60 years old and I've never been able to say that. And that's eating me. And I work with prisoners. We go to the prison here in Bali and we have a program there. And I do believe that's the shift that we need in our society, in our culture. A space where all the parts are welcome. And talking about it and owning them and be able to share about it means we don't have to act on it. Means we can talk about it and we get to get expressed. And that's simple. If needed, not everyone needs to talk about it. It can be fully integrated and channeled. But, knowing that all parts of me are welcome. I have a lot of my graduates here. I share a lot of stuff that I've done that I'm really not proud of. Things I'm I'm no longer ashamed of, but that I'm not ashamed because I've integrated them. I've understood why I manipulated, why I lied, and all things that I have done that I thought, oh my God, if people knew what I've done, oh my God, they wouldn't be able to talk to me. Things that I've raised children and I've done things with my children. I cannot say I'm proud of them. Okay? But when I bring that, and then I ask them, do you think less of me as a man, less of me as a facilitator? It gives them permission to do the same. And we drop the masks and we come to a place of fucking raw authenticity, not fake authenticity, very, very raw vulnerability. And that's what transformation is. That's what self-love is. Self-love is loving all your parts. And the end of IFS, the outcome, is to access those wounded parts, those exiles, and give them another job, reassign them. And that's what it becomes really, really cool. So for me, I had a childhood where one of my manager was to lie. I had to lie from very, very young age. I shared in a post. I was lying if I flushed the toilet or not. I was 3 years old. And it's just be part of me. And I'm not going to go into the detail of what happened to me for me to develop that manager, but there is some power and there is some beauty and it's very useful to know how to hide things. So I've come to appreciate those parts that most people will say, well, what can be good about lying? Truth is good and lying is bad. And I think that's the fundamental problem. If we stop labeling people and parts of ourselves are good or bad, but instead of that, we welcome them with curiosity and compassion, says, oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. You just did that. I mean, it's a game changer in terms of self-love. I give you an example. A year ago, I'm in a sauna and I sit. I have so many issues that I could, of course, bring here. And enter a couple in the sauna. I'm very happy in my relationship, but somehow there is a part of me that needs to seduce this woman. and her partner has long hair. Of course, it's a trigger for me. Okay. And she starts to, after one point, says, "Oh, you're the breath guy. My trainings are sold out. I don't need to show off." And no, 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 no. I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Oh, I heard about you." And we talk about breath work. And her partner just said, then, with the gentleman with the long hair triggering me, says, "Oh, I've done the training in this modality of breath work, of Kriya Yoga. I have not done this as a training." But the part of me said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, I've done it." And I observed the part of me that lied in that moment about the fact that I had done it. They were tourists. Yeah, they were passing by, but there was a part of me that needed to lie in that moment about a skill that I actually didn't have. I don't know. And then after that, actually, I got exposed because he asked me, "Who did you train with?" I knew someone. He knew that person. And then they left the sauna. I mean, I'm 48 years old, and I went home, bought some chocolate along the way, and went into bed and watched Netflix for 3 hours. You know, so that, why on earth did I need to do that? Yeah. But the lesson, it was to be able to come to compassion and curiosity once I was not triggered anymore. Just say, "Hey, interesting. Why did you lie? Why did you need to tell that story out of nowhere? There is no benefit. Why?" And just understanding what my needs were not met in that moment and what part of me was vulnerable and had not been integrated in me, I fell in love with myself. I had so much sadness and compassion for the little 3-year-old inside of me that was acting out. And imagine, of course, with practice, you can do that with yourself. But when you bring these stories to a circle, it's it's literally life-changing for the participants because they've never experienced a space where they can share openly the thing that they say, "Oh my God, if people knew that about me," and many are in this call who have shared things they have never shared with anyone, and that's literally, yeah, for me, it's the most beautiful thing. So, yeah, friends, that's a little bit about what I wanted to share with you today. Um, why don't we have, and you guys can ask some questions. I wonder if Grace or Hannah, if you want to unmute to share a little bit, and then in the meantime, we can wait some question. Grace, you want to share? You feel like you want to share? Go, Grace, for context, and quite a few here were in the recent facilitator training, and I thought it would be interesting to hear feedback from people who were going through the process. Can you unmute, Grace? I don't know if you know how to do that. Yep. Good.
Hello.
Here we go.
I'm in a restaurant, so I might be a little bit noisy, but hello. How are you?
Amazing to see you. So grateful for you. Yeah, I just wondered if you were open to sharing a bit about, I explained it was very theoretical. If you want to share about your experience, what it was for you and your own journey.
Yeah, so I loved it. I came really thinking, not really knowing what to expect, I guess, and not really knowing about IFS at all. And I came in with an open mind and open heart, really, really, really fearful. But yeah, I ended up coming out learning so much about myself and so much about all these little parts that are just parts of me and not me. Um, I've been doing lots of integration in the last couple of days. I've noticed a few parts come up, and then I've noticed, I've just been compassionate with those parts and really loving with myself and kind to myself because of those parts. Um, yeah, it's been really beautiful integration for myself, and the whole training was amazing. Like you did such a good job, Alex. I learned so much about myself, and yeah, you're right about this after work. I think I had that after, um, I wouldn't call it a depression, but I was sad because I was leaving because it was such a beautiful experience. But then I've stopped those thoughts, and now it's like this work that I'm doing after and integrating. That's the main part, and really getting to know myself more. It's really actually been really beautiful. Yeah, learning more about myself, all these little parts. I had a part the other day where I was like, oh, I'm really scared. And then I was like, no, I've got you. Like, why are you scared? My soulful self came and protected that part and integrated it into myself. And then I came back to present. It was really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something very important you mentioned here is the concept of self energy. The part that I mute you because of the sound of the noise. When we're grounded, relaxed, and able to the adult in the room, that's the self energy. And if you're able to have one's foot in the self and can observe and take care of the part that are being triggered, that's a game changer. And that's, for me, is an incredible way to deal with addiction, with all behaviors, by providing the needs that were unmet for the child, and provide it as an adult to yourself, and appreciate that. And the truth is, I really don't understand why not every child is being educated on that. Why do we learn so much about mathematics and history, and we have no clue about how to love ourselves, how to be in relationship with others, with ourselves, and to function as a loving, caring human? There is something fundamentally wrong with our society and our culture. We're not, and that's something that that I learn and I teach, is that you cannot trust your brain. The job of your brain is to keep you safe, is not to keep you happy. And it's looping stories over and over and get you stuck into a narrative because it just wants to protect you from not reliving what you've experienced 30, 40, 50 years ago. And once you realize that, you go into the body. That's the power of somatic work, and blending somatic and the psyche is incredible, but they go hand in hand. And we need to have a holistic approach. But just going through the mind is not enough. Just going through the body is not enough. We need both. And yeah, I dream of a world where we are rethinking prisons. I don't like the idea of labeling people as bad, the same way we should not label parts of us as bad. I am fully proud of all parts of me now. I fully love and accept all parts of me. And this is the kind of message I pass on to my children, so they can welcome all of themselves, rather than, this pressure of social media and toxic culture of, you have to behave in a certain way, you have to be good, you have to be honest, you have to be generous. Oh my God, how much pressure we put on ourselves. No wonder there is so many divorce and suicide and addiction and disconnection. But coming back to a vibration of just love, trust, and generosity, and it's not rocket science, isn't it, Grace? It's not rocket science. All right, I'm rambling. Any questions, guys? Anything else, Grace, you want to say? No? Good.
I
No,
see a
not really.
question.
Go ahead, Grace. No, no, not really. Okay.
I see a question in the chat, Alex.
Yeah. I saw that from Nabil. Um, No, so do you explain the IFS concept? Not really. We go through it, but my approach is very much to stay in flow. So we really go with having I do believe that transformation happens in the feminine. So there is some structure at the beginning, but very much what makes it magic and what makes the circle magic is the idea of flowing and following and going along with what's alive in the group. And sometimes it's confrontation. Every training you guys have attended, there is a moment where, people are confronting me. And part of me is excited in those moments, is, yeah, that's getting real now. Some people are expressing that they don't like something I said or something I did, and they are brave enough to express it. And then I through examples and the mirroring brain, they see what I'm doing, and then we come into it. And I explain IFS as it is experienced. So it's not like I guide them through the process. It's just that once parts are unblending, we just we just get to know them and we are meeting them. And what I find is that the parts feel quite safe to come out because of the vibration of the container and the energy in the group. And one of them is, and that's really what I think makes this training different, is I am not superior to the students. And that's quite different. Very often you have teachers that put themselves above, look at me, I've done this, I'm a hero, I was broken, now I'm whole, la, la, la. And I think that's one of the mistakes also in our culture. And that's why we have so many heroes and gods who are falling from, because we've put them so high on a pedestal. But that's just a lie. And when we as facilitators, we approach the work with humility, say, yep, I did a mistake. Yes, I should not have said that. Yes, it creates oh my God, what is that? It's not someone who's superior to me. It's also a human who owns when he fucks up. That's different. And that's what I encourage my facilitators to do the same. So we call ourselves magicians. And that's a word that needs to be brought to the modern era. We're all magicians, and people who are trained, they become magicians. And why they are magicians and why I'm a magician? It's because we're transforming fear into trust, and we transform guilt into pride, and shame into acceptance and compassion and curiosity. And all of a sudden, those vibrations that are holding us back from fully being free and feeling joy and releasing those tensions in our bodies, they are also welcome. And literally, and that's the link to the somatic aspect, tensions disappear. Autoimmune disease gets resolved. It's ridiculous. But I do believe that the body is communicating all the time and we're not listening. And I think that's what diseases are. Diseases are manifestations of unexpressed emotions, repressed emotions that are being stored in the fascia system. And if they are not being released, eventually they come out in attacking itself. Direct you to the work of Gabor Mate on the links between, people pleasing and autoimmune disease, and that's very much something that's quite taboo in our society, because it means that it's my fault if I have cancer. That's not something that we like to hear, and we just disempower people. Says, oh, I'd rather just tell you to take this medicine for the rest of your life and to not. But once we appreciate this concept of taking radical responsibility and removing the blame and the shame, just say, hey, let's approach it. And very often it's things that have not been resolved by our parents that we keep going with. And it's literally a game changer. So yeah, anything else, my friends? We have a lot of experts in the room, and I wonder if people want to, either my graduates want to give testimonials, or all the participants. I have Kasha. Oh my God, I have some really advanced facilitators in the room. Good to see you, Kasha. If you want to, yeah, come in. Sam, you have to put a t-shirt if you want to ask a question. Hey, Tom. Anything coming up, my friend Tamara? Oh my God. See you all. So yeah, I'll continue rambling, but please interrupt or ask questions as if you have. It's I think it comes down to a vibration of love and one love. And another thing that I really want to anchor into everyone is the power of giving, the power of loving. And very often we don't know how to do that. When you say I love you, do you say I love you because you love, or because you want to hear I love you too? Are you a giver or are you a taker? When in life are you entering into connection with the intention of taking? And you have a side hidden agenda with your words. It's very, very common. So having a moment of observation, and that's really what I want to leave you guys with. Just have a moment of observation of your parts and says, oh, interesting. And next time something comes up, a habit. Habits are the place to go to. Look at your habits. Your habits say everything about you, about your past, your traumas, your loves, your losses. They are all in your habits. And when you observe your habits with curiosity and compassion, that's why journaling is so important. That's why meditation is so important. You know, people don't tell you that. It's the point of meditation is to be with yourself. If you're not with your parts, then you can't go anywhere. So coming to why I love breathwork, because it brings stillness. It's what happens after breathwork that matters. It's saying, you know, yoga is not important. What matters is shavasana. That's the purpose of yoga. It's not the asana. And that's what I love sauna. Sauna is so great because then you get still. And then after sauna, you rest. And those are the moments where literally you can be with yourself. That's why being with your dreams and journaling after when you wake up in the morning is so important, because it really gets insights to emotions and feelings that have not been processed during the day. And if people were to know about somatic work, know about part work before they were to experience a traumatic situation, we wouldn't have traumatized people. Because you know, trauma is not an event. Trauma is what's happening inside of you as a result of what's happened to you. And the role of sleep is to integrate what has not been expressed. So if people go through a traumatic, it has been plenty studied and documented. People can go through something traumatic, but if they're able to somatically release it, aka shake it, and then be able to talk about it, they are okay. It's when they say, I don't want anyone to know how it is, I'm going to forget about it, I'm going to go into my, and then it gets praised. Imagination. Go into, oh, this kid is always imaginative. Yes, can also be a manager. So this is the truth. I think everybody should know these things, and it's common sense when you hear it. It's really not rocket science. When does IFS come into breathwork session? It is blended. So how is it blended? I tell you how I do my session. We start with movement because we need some material. So we dance and we move and we are a bit silly and we bring our inner child in the room. And then we sit and we do a check-in. And I say, what's alive in you? Another way I would say is, which part of you is alive? But I don't use this word. What's going on? What's there? And I don't say anything else. They speak first. I don't teach. And then each of them will share and will bring that part. And all of a sudden we get to welcome the parts. And someone will say, oh, I'm busy with work. Okay, now we have a manager coming in. You know what prevents you from being fully present, and that's your defense. Okay, so we get to really welcome the parts right there, 10 minutes into the session. And they come and they don't even know they're coming. And they are welcome. And I end every share by thank you, welcome. And I name the person. So somehow what I tell them unconsciously is I tell them this part is welcome. And then we move on. And then we play some authentic relating games. Explore authentic relating, creates really deep connection. But what matters in authentic relating is always the impact sharing. So someone would say something like, very powerful question, something I don't want you to know about me. And then the other person says, hearing that, I feel, how am I being impacted? And all of a sudden that creates deep connection, but also that reveals more vulnerable parts. So here we go. You have a next step. Some exiles are a little bit tickled and brought. What are you the most ashamed of? Things like that come to the surface. And then we go into the breath. And when we go into the breath, all of a sudden we get out of the way. That's where the magic happens. That's where the hands extension, in the Chinese medicine, the extension of the heart. All of a sudden people will touch some parts of themselves where they've been holding tensions for all their life. And of course, another taboo topic, the anatomy of the person is an autobiography. The breath is an autobiography. If I look at someone, if I look how they breathe, I will have a lot of information about what happened to them, how their body has adapted over the years to they're coping mechanism, you know, and that would be shoulders protecting the heart. That would be tensions in the stomach and chronic stomach pain because of unexpressed anger, repressed sexual energy, because in our culture it's absolutely completely repressed, even more because of the Me Too movement. I mean, we are touching really strong cultural topics here. And in breathwork, because we turn off the prefrontal cortex, the mirror, the part that says, "Oh, I don't want, I have to repress, I have to control myself, I have to be a good boy." All of a sudden, this gets shut up. So people express. So they have orgasm, they laugh, they cry, they scream, they express anger. They are being human without blocking it. So all of a sudden, those wounded parts come to the surface, and they are welcome. And I encourage all the parts to welcome, and they trigger each other, of course. So it's a whole show. The whole family of parts are coming now. And then we integrate. And that's where it's so important to integrate. That's where important to circle really well, because that's where we get to make sense of what happened to us. That's where we get to come with curiosity and compassion and appreciate that all parts of me are welcome. And when we do that, it just creates a vibration of safety. And again, love is the answer. It's, you know, someone should write a song about this. Yeah, so that's to answer Kelly. So it's, you know what? I've been doing this for 10 years. I had no idea about IFS. It's not like I did IFS thinking, oh, let's apply it. No. And I think so many of us in somatic work, we've done IFS all our life, and just now you get it. You know, about 2 years ago, I got to understand and learn about IFS, and oh my God, I've been doing that's what I've been doing, but I've been doing it intuitively, not doing it because I knew what I was doing. It's just, and that's, I call it the lost art of being human. That's how we should be. We should be always like that. That's all. We should live in tribes. We should live in community. We should have people we should feel safe to come to and open up without someone interrupting, without someone trying to fix us and tell us what book to read and what's wrong with us. And that's what's wrong. What's wrong is every time you share something, someone's going to tell you what you need to go to do this and you need to go to do that. And da, 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 da. And then we don't feel safe, and then we don't open anymore. That's the problem. But when there is no fixing, when there is no opinion, when there is no judgment, nothing to do. Just sit back and watch people open up. And that's it. Okay. I can talk about the safety affair. Grace,
Alex,
go
I think
ahead.
I saw a hand by Nabil, but I think it's gone now, but I don't know if you wanted
Grace,
to
go ahead.
something.
Thank you, Maxime. Go ahead, Grace. You're muted.
Hello. Yeah, so just in relation to your training in general, um, just going back to what you were saying before about how you created the safety by being vulnerable yourself, and that for me then allowed myself to have all my parts come to the surface and my authenticity to come through. So that was really beautiful to have, I don't know, to feel safe for all my parts to come through and come up and really show, scream, cry, rejoice, and laugh. And yeah, it was amazing. And I think you did it beautifully in a perfect way of balance between the masculine and the feminine as well. So you being in your fem and listening and caring and noticing what was going on with the whole group really created that safe container for us, or me, I'll talk about me, to then express myself and yeah, show up as me. So yeah, I just thought I'd share that too.
Thank you. Thank you, Grace.
That's okay.
Yeah, and there I can talk about the importance of also studying Tantra. And that's another modality that is absolutely fundamental. This idea of understanding our inner masculine, in our inner feminine, our wounds, And very often parts of us are wounded and we try to fix them through the external. So if my masculine is wounded, oh, I'm going to all my life look for a woman to fix it. And once you understand that you have your inner masculine and your inner feminine, and both of them need to take care of, and they can take care of each other. Oh my God, it's another game changer. So very encourage everyone to also explore. I'll do another webinar on Tantra because it's so beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking into it.
Thank you. Anyone else want to ask question?
Alex?
Yes, go ahead.
I just had a question. We finished our training in February, and I thought our circles were quite profound after the breathwork session. I was just wondering what the IFS training did to these circles, if anything, in your recent training.
Yeah, I mean, we will continue for another hour now with the graduates, and I will very much go into that. But it's, I think the framework helps people map their parts, so they really start to understand all parts of themselves and have way more journaling and way more appreciation, and say, oh, and be able to connect, anchor themselves in the self all the time, and just say, oh, a part of me is noticing that this part is coming. So instead of being completely lost into their part, into their and have their part take over, says, oh, this is my reality. No, step by step, they were able to distance themselves and says, oh, a part of me is triggered by you. A part of me is getting angry right now. And that's the whole difference. It's no longer I'm angry at you. It's a part of me is getting angry. And that reframing is essential because they get to appreciate what part is being triggered. And one of our sentences, as you know, Michelle, is your trigger is your teacher. And that's very important. Like as soon as the trigger comes, instead of going to blame and focusing on the other person and say, oh, the teacher is not good, look at what he's done, and I'm justified. Okay, that's maybe a part of the story. You get to bring it back to yourself and say, okay, why am I being triggered by this remark? Why am I being triggered by that subject? And very often, the more we are open and vulnerable, the easier we get triggered because all those parts feel safe to come to the surface and the protectors can relax. So it's a space where triggers, that's why it's exhausting also, it's because triggers come all the time. But it's no longer a problem. It's no longer something we try to avoid because that's what we try to do all our life is just try to avoid the triggers. Now, all of us are going to say, oh, that's interesting. And my main facilitation sentence is, I'm curious. I'm curious why you say that. I'm curious why you do that. And approaching parts with curiosity creates a lot of safety. I'm curious if you want to reveal what's going on for you. I'm not using exactly the IFS languages and how they do it, but it's exactly the same. It's the same principles. It's a mix also of compassionate inquiry from Gabor Mate. It's all the same modalities. They all have different languages, but it's kind of the same thing. And from Jung, Carl Jung, and the concept of shadow is exactly the same. It's just being fine tuning, but it's nothing new. I think what is I find missing is the concept of circling, is the concept of community rather than relying on one person, my best friend, my partner, my therapist. And that's the part that I feel could be enhanced by proper community support. That's why people love AA. There is a lot to say on AA, but actually the part that people love is a circling part. And you look at every community, they always do that. It's this idea. No. Back in the days in Peru, they would be sitting with a cacao. And how people feel safe, it's always like that. So it could be a singing circle. It would be having a beer in a bar. But then we go into the circle and we drink together. And this idea of drinking together, what we do, we align ourselves, we align our breath, whether it's with a cacao, with an inhale and an exhale, or with a beer, is the same idea. We intuitively, we know it. And people who are happy in a wedding, they dance in circle. And we are happy with your friends in the club, you dance in circle. So we do it. We've always done it. And we do it unconsciously because we know that's the vibration of love. But if you do it now consciously, you consciously sit in circle, you dedicate space, you define guidelines, and then you bring to the surface what is really going on. I promise you, you create a vibration of transformation. And it's easy. That's the best part. That's easy. It's you need to practice and you need to keep at it. And it feels amazing. All right, friends. Quick checkout. I think it's 57. Anyone wants to say something before we close? You can unmute. Why don't you guys unmute? And I will finish in a different view so we can hear a bit some feedback. Unmute, guys, and popcorn style. Give me some feedback. I want to know.
Hi, Alex.
Hey, Tamara.
Good to see you again. Can I ask one more question?
Yes, you may.
In breathwork sessions, do you still keep it quite open with your guidance, or do you give impulses, say, now connect to this part of yourself, now connect to the exile, like really giving verbal impulses regarding parts?
Now we'll talk more in the second part. We just all the graduates, but I can answer briefly. I like to keep the space open because you never know what's going on for people. And I don't like the idea of direction in the breath because someone might be just focusing on work and not at all doing some healing. So I don't like the idea of imposing my agenda, but rather keeping it a place of openness, welcoming everything, rather than as making an assumption. But if you facilitate a session with a theme, then you can do that.
Thank you very much.
Some feedback, guys, popcorn style.
I could say that it's not even been a week yet since we finished the course. This has been a really, really useful call with helping with integration. It's been quite heavy landing back in the UK after being in such a beautiful container. Yeah, thank you, Alex.
Do you want to share a bit a testimonial of your experience, Laz?
Sure. So I mean, similar to what Grace shared with coming into the experience, pretty open and curious, but definitely, I mean, you always have some kind of expectations, I think, even if you hope to stay open. And I mean, the training blew me away. I think it was way more than I could have ever anticipated. And yeah, the parts work. I was unfamiliar with IFS too, but what I took away some pretty big learnings. One being that I'd imposed some quite strong stories on myself, having grown up in a way of not necessarily feeling good enough, or my sense of belonging being over. My need to belong was way more powerful than my need to be 100% authentic all the time. And that hit me quite hard early on into the training when, as Alex said, we did one-on-one facilitation on day 3, and I basically ran away, cried my eyes out and ran away. And that was a big part of me kind of having the fear of not knowing, not being good enough, being scared to be seen, to voice my truth, to really show up authentically, and from my heart rather than my mind. So yeah, that was a really, really key lesson that I'm still integrating now, and I think it might take a little while, but yeah, super, super powerful because it was only a couple of days later and I led for myself a group session I was really, really proud of. So learning that really early on, and as much as my mind was saying, I don't want to do it, why are you making me do it? All the stuff that you don't necessarily want to feel. Yeah, I can see the value in being pushed out of your comfort and acknowledging the triggers that they are teachers and not something you need to run away from. So it took me a while. I spent a lot of the weeks running away and trying to deal with things on my own. Always coming back to community, but actually, yeah, especially in the last week, I really, really felt the power of the community. I went through something quite rough, timings I won't go into now, but yeah, there's real magic to be had in healing with others or connecting with others. So yeah, thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Lars. And yeah, so just to that, we'll have some integration for a few weeks, and I make my training evolve towards a 2 years training. So one of the things that I knew from the beginning that this work needs time, and it's gonna be evolving towards something way more in depth. So yeah, this takes time, and the integration takes time. So I'm gonna honor that by making the training way more long and complete. But it's already life-changing in 3 weeks, so imagine what we will do in 2 years. Reprogramming, you're gonna become someone else. Remember who you are. Anyone else wants to give me some feedback? Kasha.
Hi, Alex. Yeah, I just want to say thanks for this. It's a really interesting concept, and I was curious how you combining breathwork with the IFS. And I've only started learning about IFS, and I discovered that not that long ago. So I don't have the great knowledge about it, to be honest. About IFS, I've got some general understanding, and I'm going to dive a little bit deeper. But I just really wanted to hear. I was curious when I saw about your webinar. I was like, how he's gonna he's gonna blend it in. But it actually sounds amazing. Yeah, sounds amazing. And perhaps once I learn more about IFS, maybe do some study. I don't know yet. Maybe then I will start weaving that into my sessions as well. Because it sounds really powerful too. And I've talked to a few people who's done a lot of IFS, and they just saying like how powerful this work is. Yeah. So knowing how powerful breathwork is, combining those two, it's like, whoa, like a rocket.
And I love Kasha. I love your work as a breathwork facilitator. And now come to Bali. Come and say hello. I miss you. Come
Oh,
and
well, one day. I haven't been since 2
we
years
did a
ago.
training together
Yeah.
a few years
Yeah.
ago. All
Yeah.
right. Thank you,
Good to see you,
Kasha.
Alex.
Good to
Thank you
see
so
you.
much. Thanks.
Anyone else wants to give some feedback?
I would.
Go ahead.
So I did the training in January, and I've been a bit quiet since then. So because I was traveling around, and like the last 2 weeks, I finally am back at my apartment, can build a routine. And so the time after the training, it's been so clearing and so interesting to watch myself. Because I was still like obviously feeling the same because I'm not a different person. I'm not a different human being, but watching me interact with people or me in different, like the same surroundings, but my vision of myself and my feeling inside was so different and still is. And it's even if it's like the tiniest baby steps, because I still haven't integrated the breath work into my daily routine or something, and I could have been super disappointed by myself. Like my past Yona would have been super disappointed and be like, yeah, you did this for nothing and blah blah blah. But my mindset shifted, and that is so beautiful to feel. I'm so much calmer and kinder to myself. So I'm working on the gentle part, and it's really yeah, and having the feedback from my parents, which I'm very close to them, and they see it and I feel it, and it's really and it's only been 2 months since the training stopped. So I'm very excited for the future and to see how that can be. And it's only been three weeks. So yeah, thinking about you doing a training for 2 years is yeah, I'm happy to follow you doing that.
Ooh, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, friends. Well, thank you so much for joining. We have some, Maxime, if you can share in the group chat, we have some trainings coming. So I don't know if you already did that. We have, we're going to be in India very soon. You have that, Maxime, to share?
Yeah, sorry, I posted it in the memorization group. I'll post it here now.
Oh yeah, that's not for the memorization. So we have 2-day workshops every month. I have facilitator trainings in India, beginning of May, on 10th of May. And then I will be doing one in August. And I also have online trainings, and we have pre-recorded all the science and the knowledge. So feel free to join me. I also have online courses. So I would love for you to get in touch. It's all on breathingcold.com, and I'll send you all the links for that. All right, my friends, thank you so much, everyone. I will keep all the graduates, and we now have 1 hour where we're going to go more into how to apply IFS to their sessions. Thank you so much, everyone. Good to see you, Claire. Thank you, Celine, for the heart. And stop recording.